You're listening to the Lumina podcast by Ad Valorem, where we shine a light on tax, business strategy and personal wealth.
From running a business to planning your future, we bring real-world insight to help you stay ahead.
Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Behind the Business, where we showcase the journeys of our clients.
And today we're absolutely thrilled to be joined by Brian Coventry, the founder of CloudCapcha, a company that has developed some really innovative software that will work particularly well with professional services firms and firms that where recording time is absolutely fundamental. Brian, welcome. Brian, can you give us some background about your journey, how you got here, and what CloudCapcha's all about?
Blimey, how long have you got? Well, I started my journey in the profession in Australia a long time ago. And that led into IT for accounting firms, fundamentally practice management systems. And over the years, we were able to develop expertise in how those systems were implemented for accounting firms, along with associated other systems like CRM, document management, and then all the automation and integration that goes with that. That business still exists today. It's called Symphony. And we focused predominantly on top end of town firms in Australia and the UK, New Zealand predominantly, few in the US. Back in 2017, we had a long hard look at those systems, not just ourselves, but also the systems that we competed against, of which there were quite a few. And we came to the conclusion that our system, along with others, was broken. And the area that we focused on was time recording. And when we looked at that, we discovered that professionals in recording time, which manifests itself in all things being a bill for their clients, was a work of fiction. And so we decided it was broken, needed to be fixed. And we went about developing a solution that deals with the facts and getting to the truth of what actually is going on inside these firms. And we did that by developing CloudCapcha associated with Symphony, and this new cloud-based solution sits inside Microsoft Teams and helps people who are recording time probably at the end of the day actually enjoy it, which is a big step from people that actually
time
probably hate it.
I think it's really interesting because, if we'd have had this conversation maybe 10 or 12 years ago, the big thing was time recording's dead, it's all about outputs. But I think certainly we've always championed timesheets. I think it's really a really important part of measurement and learning process. And I think, but I think with the advent, particularly of the aggregation in the marketplace now, due diligence is obviously a key thing. And we can speak from our perspective when we're acquiring, but by acquiring a practice that hasn't got a time recording system, that's a pretty big hole that you've got to try to fill.
I mean, I think for years we were a Iris practice in the early days, and we probably spent more than would, if you looked at the size of our firm at the time, would have felt like a good idea. But actually, I'm very systems focused, and I think I'd always thought, well, you need to systemize as much as you can, but that doesn't seem to be the mentality necessarily in professional services. I think, and I think for years we were going around trying to find a solution, and obviously very happy to have found CloudCapcha. But obviously you've had this process of evolution, because obviously cloud-based systems are coming. How does your product deal with all the different kinds of ways that people work nowadays?
I think when it comes to, we understand professional services.
Yeah.
But I guess because of that, we also understand any knowledge worker that is in the habit of has to record time in order for the business typically to bill something as an outcome of that. But that's not necessarily always the case. Some businesses like yourselves, actually, it's not so much about the billing, it's actually about understanding what is it costing us to produce the services that we have. So by extension, we're able to address all manner of businesses. One we looked at recently was a media and creative industry, believe it or not, where they... that was a real problem for them, is actually understanding, whilst we do fixed fees and there's a mechanism, I'm sure, how they quote for that, but actually understanding what their return or their gross margin is on that after direct labour costs is something that a lot of people want to solve. And I think there's been a lot of noise over recent years about do away with that. You don't need the timesheet. And let's just go for what they call value billing. And there's an argument for that. You can do that. But over time, sooner or later, those people that deploy that method within their business come back to, what is it costing us to deliver?
I think it's always easy to over-service, isn't it? I think that's always the danger. I know from our experience, quite often you look at, we've got the big clients, but when you actually analyse those clients, you actually don't make any money on it because you're conscious of how much they're paying you. Yeah. You therefore over-service them. Yeah. And I think not having a system, we found, not having a system allows you to be able to perhaps dodge difficult conversations. And, at the risk of being controversial on that from a professional perspective, I often think that a lot of firms that don't want to do time recording, it's actually because the partner really doesn't want to be accountable. Now, and that's probably a bit controversial, but...
No, I do think it comes to scalability again, though. I think the firms that truly want to scale would be interested in knowing where time goes, because time is our product, really. How our people spend their time, it really matters. And I think certainly from our point of view, we wouldn't have been able to scale to the size we are without having time sheets. And I think that we've done a couple of acquisitions where there weren't time sheets, and it was a problem. There were things in there that you think, actually, no, that's if we'd have known that, we would have been a bit more wise to how we could integrate that firm afterwards.
Certainly heightens the risk, doesn't it?
Well, I think your point about accountability, that's one element of that you have to tackle in these this situation. But interestingly enough, some of the people that make the best use of our product are actually the high performers.
Yeah, I believe that.
They are kicking goals all over the place, and they do want to know how to get better. The ones that perhaps are struggling a little bit are ones that are perhaps have an issue around accountability, and therefore that's not our solution. Really doesn't help that.
It's a degree of head burying. Yeah. Head burying is going to be head burying, isn't it?
But I think it's I think we've had this conversation, Brian, where I think when we had our strategy day this year, the key thing our team value after salary is flexibility. Yeah. So I think it's a two-edged sword, isn't it? Because actually, being as flexible as we are in hybrid working creates a problem for management. It makes it harder to manage people. I think there's got to be a trade-off, somewhere where, yes, to make life more easy for tracking what people are doing. It's not a big brother thing. It's actually just, what are you doing with your day?
It's about valuing the individual, I think.
And I think, it's small changes can have a big impact, can't they? So if you just improve something by 1%, when you're dealing in a bigger firm, just making that 1% improvement can be a big number at the end of the day.
100%.
So look, on your journey though, Brian, was there any time where you had a big light bulb moment where you thought, right, changing tack here?
I guess so. We're dealing with a timesheet, right?
Yeah.
I'd ask you to cast your mind back to times when everybody had to have an app. Remember the app store?
We never went down that route.
Everyone had to have an app, and so accountants had to have an app on their phone for their firm, and we suffered the same thing. we listened to a lot of our clients on the legacy practice management systems, and we need to have a mobile timesheet. And I think the aha moment there was a little bit like the Henry Ford story, is if I asked them, what they wanted better, they would have wanted a faster horse. And that's what we ended up with, I think, with the mobile timesheet, is actually a faster horse. No sooner had we developed that we realised that actually it wasn't the technology that needed to change, it was also the behaviour. And because doing a timesheet wasn't something that was liked, we needed to go back and find out, well, what is it that's broken there that needs to be fixed in order to make that process a lot more accepted, if you like, by the team. So I guess, is that a light bulb moment? But it was a point, a turning point that forced us to go back and reassess what it was that needed to change. And I guess we got a little bit of luck around that, is that one of the decisions we took in that whole design was that the time recording for the future for knowledge workers would reside inside Microsoft Teams. Now, we could have got that wrong.
I would say I think it's
pretty safe bet.
It's strategic. I think it was a strategic direction you took.
You've got to have a bit of luck. You've got to have a bit of luck in business sometimes. And when we launched in the pandemic. And of course, what took off then was, as we all know, Microsoft Teams became the staple for all firms. And so that we got that right. But the light bulb moment was actually, I guess, the going down the road and thinking that, if we put a mobile app on the phone, that would be it. And it wasn't. Nobody actually used it. So we had to go back and find out, what it was that was broken and fix that.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, what did your business look like at the start? Was it like a lot of the startups? Was just sort of you sitting sort of behind a desk at home?
In your garage?
Not quite. I mean, we were fortunate that we'd already had an existing business that had been trading for a number of years. And I guess the thing out of that you've got resource in there that you can leverage. We made the conscious decision. We didn't have the capacity within our business to develop software, so that was something that we built, and we made an absolute gem of a decision in the business partner that we work with to help us develop this. Really state of the art methodologies around how to do that, and I think that's been. I credit Phil, our CEO, with leading that and bringing that into our business through a prior relationship that he had. So we had an infrastructure that we could work from, and I think actually the key thing out of it was we had existing relationships and we had a good reputation with our clients. Some of them have been with us for 25 years. To some extent unheard of in our sector, and it was from that we could springboard from there, because we knew who they were. We could go and have conversations, and that makes life a lot easier when you're trying to kick off something new. I think whilst like any small business, you've got to finance that development. It's difficult, like any small business. We were not as acute as some others, walking through that valley of death in the early days, but we got through it. And I do think that our relationships that we had with firms, some of them weren't our clients, but they knew us. They knew of us, and they knew of our reputation, and therefore their doors were open for us to go and have. Correct.
It's relationships, isn't it?
All about relationships, 100%. Yeah.
So have you got anything you'd like to share, sort of any major sort of failure that turned into a learning experience?
Any challenges you overcome?
Yes.
I think failures we call training. I've had a lot of training.
I not so much in CloudCapcha. I think the CloudCapcha benefited by the many logs that I fell over in the Symphony journey, and I think one of the key learnings for me was it can get quite lonely in a small business, and I certainly felt that. And I remember Phil having a beer with Phil back in, I think, 2016. He said to me one day, he said, "I think you need some help." And I said, "Yeah, I think you're right." And we kicked that off. And what Phil brought with his experience was just looking at the inventory of stuff that we had that we were talking to firms about. And he says, "There's too much here. There's just way too much. You need to get focused."
So simplify.
Yeah, and so simplify the business and get focused on, not trying to be all things to all people or doing 101 things at once. He cut it down to 7. I remember the 7. He said, "Let's just stay focused on that."
And that's still quite a lot, isn't it?
It's still quite a lot, and we've cut it even further. And I think that's been my biggest lesson is, as an entrepreneur, you wake up in the morning and you hit your head on the wall and you've got another new idea that you run into the business.
I hope you're listening to this, Nigel.
what you're saying, Brian.
So but we all do it, and it needs you need those sort of personalities that are going to be creative and innovative, but that can also be a bit of a wrecking ball. Day one you walk in, you've got this idea, and then 3 days later you're in with another one, and that one's got to get put to the side. And jerking the team around like that can be very disruptive. And so that I think was my biggest failing from my perspective, and I think CloudCapcha has benefited by those disciplines, and we've carried on in the way that we run both businesses now. It's very disciplined.
Can you give us a little bit about Symphony? Give us a little bit of background about Symphony. I know CloudCapcha is, obviously...
Yeah, so we were in our days, we launched in 1998 in Sydney and London. I founded that with Brian Armstrong, who I'd worked with in a prior organisation, Solution 6. We wanted to do something different in our vertical. We wanted to bring a practice management solution to top-end accounting firms that was the best from a product experience, but also we fundamentally wanted to bring about a new way of working with accounting firms, and that was where the whole relationship ethos came from, and we did that. The business then was APS. It was singularly successful in New Zealand, Australia, and also the UK. And we were all things practice management to leading accounting firms in those regions, and we had a client list to die for. It was they were some serious players. And we still have them today.
Which is brilliant. I mean, I love the evolution of the product.
Yeah.
It's a natural evolution from your foundations of practice management into something which is, practice management absolutely key. It's core to what we do. But for me, the time recording thing is, again, it was always the thing that we made up.
Yeah.
So it's a natural evolution, and harnessing technology to be able to deliver that a lot more seamlessly than sort of getting to the end of the month or the end of the week and trying to work out where you, on your spreadsheet where you actually spent 9 hours and I'll just dump it to the biggest client or whatever, which is what used to happen. Let's be honest. I think it's lovely to see that evolution, how it's grown.
Yeah, it's been nice to see that evolution. I mean, we had all of that experience about how it wasn't working and the behaviours that went with it. People to this day are still writing things on a bit of paper and then going to the electronic timesheet to essentially rekey what they put in. All of it's a world of fiction. So it's nice to be listening to users saying, "I actually really enjoy this. It's got my back. It's really helping me to do my job." And then from the leadership of the business saying, "Oh, we're now getting the data, and we're getting the data points that can help us improve and grow our business." So that's really gratifying to move through that journey that started all the way back in 1998 to where we are now, with those same clients, but taking them on a new evolution.
But you're almost like starting a new business again with CloudCapcha. So again, I guess the great benefit. You're looking at what you've done in the past, and you're right, I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
But there's still, it's quite a big leap to suddenly say, right, okay, we've got this product which is working really well, and we've got a great client list. Let's do something else. Let's do something that will augment it and improve and be an add-on to what we've already got.
I guess the risk was that we could have developed the product and we could have just added it to the menu that Symphony already had. But because it was cloud, because it was innovative, it needed to have its own identity. And I think that was also a good decision to, a bit like Xero.
Yeah.
Xero has a product called Xero. It's got a website called Xero, and it's got a company called Xero. So we thought, well, we'll just do the same. We'll have a product called CloudCapcha, a website called CloudCapcha, and a company called CloudCapcha. And it's easy to position that. Whereas if it was part of a list of other solutions, some of them quite mature and old, then it would perhaps run the risk of getting lost in that noise, and we wouldn't have been able to express it the way that we have in an outward positioning to the market. So I think that's been a really useful thing.
I mean, from we all know from our profession, accountants traditionally don't like change, and we're going through huge amounts of change at the moment. Yeah. How did you go about introducing CloudCapcha to a largely resistant client bank to start with?
Well, the way we did it was around about the time that we were fixing the timepiece. There was a sentiment brewing in Australia, UK, and also the US, where a lot of the legacy practice management systems, including our own, had arrived at its plateau.
Yeah.
And so a lot of firms were looking at that saying, well, what's next?
Yeah.
And the problem with a practice management system inside an accounting firm would also equally apply in legal and other solutions is that to take something out and put a total replacement in is a lot of change. And therefore, when it's perceived that it's, it's going to cost a lot of money in year one, it's going to take a lot of effort, there's going to be a lot of disruption to do that, then becomes this natural inertia to say, look, So what we did with CloudCapcha was to say, don't change what you've got in the back end, just turn off the old way of doing your timesheet, and we'll deliver CloudCapcha and we'll integrate it to your legacy solution. And therein starts your journey away from the legacy, and do it in a safe, easy to adopt way. And at the same time, when you do it, we'll make more money for you in the process. And that was taking that proposition met with a lot of acceptance.
Taking away the pain point, aren't you?
Yeah. So this is different. This makes sense. So that has been very helpful.
I think the other thing for firms like us that are not just producing accounts, what I found difficult with practice management systems is they were part of the accounting function or accounting software. And then, it was when we started doing specialist work like R&D that we do, it didn't work. It didn't fit. And I think with your product, I think what's great is that it doesn't really matter what's going on underneath.
No.
Obviously we use Salesforce as a CRM, and that, that's the important bit, because that's the bit that's holding the customer data. And then obviously products like yours can link in with that. And I think that's the bit that's really changed. I had years and years going to every single accounting conference looking for a decent practice management system that could cover not just accounts work. Yeah. And I think that's the bit that is really changing. I think a lot of companies have to be multifaceted now. Yeah. It's not just about producing tax and accounts, is it?
Yeah, I think there would have been a real risk of us saying, why don't we just take our existing practice management solution and then just develop it for the cloud. And by and large, that's what we've seen happen. That's what a lot of players are doing. That's not actually what people are wanting. Practice management has been cannibalised.
Yeah.
It's no longer going to be consumed the way we consumed it 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's all changed.
Yeah.
So recognising that and then being able to create a strategy and an evolution for clients, we're finding is getting a lot of reception out there.
So it all sounds it sounds like it's been really easy. Nothing going in there, but I'm sure there is a mistake. There's a blind alley or one or two blind alleys you might have gone down that you sort of wish, you're going to avoid that one in the future. Whether that was with Symphony or indeed with CloudCapcha.
Well, I think one that happened early that we caught was there's this assumption that because it's in the cloud that you can just log onto a website and connect to it and away you go. And at the end of the day, it's all about the technology, and that'll win the day. It's the panacea to cure the ill. And of course, when we thought the same would happen with that, it's a timesheet. It's a heck of a lot better. People are really going to enjoy using it. And so that's how they'll consume it. And there won't be the need to help firms on board. And that's actually not been the case. What we've discovered is that there is a lot of change management required because, let's face it, people have been doing this time recording the same way, as if it was when dinosaurs first arrived on the planet.
I was there with the dinosaurs, yeah. I know a few dinosaurs.
And there's all manner of challenges for people around, because you do need to change the way you do things. There are to a certain degree behaviour changes, but mainly you've people in an organisation. Some of them are early adopters. They lean into it. They go at stuff really fast. Others are probably late majority. They will follow that cohort, and then we've got people that lag a bit. And all of those different groups or cohorts need different types of help in order to get there. So that, I think, was it a mistake? Yeah, probably, but we learned very quickly from that.
Right.
Maybe an underestimation. Rather than
but I think we just fell into the trap of it's in the cloud, so it's all easy.
Yeah.
Well, the technology, yes, you're right, it does make it easy, but what about the people? What about the behaviours? And how do you support that change?
And I think we've talked about this before. We're in a multi-generation workforce now. Five generations. So you've got some that as you say, early adopters. Tech comes easy, using all these things comes easily, and then there's others that just really struggle with that. Say we've had some that never completed timesheets ever. So I think it's a as you say, it's only ever going to be as good as the user, isn't it?
It's a really key point. The younger generation that's coming into accounting firms, they're looking to further a career, and the thing that they're not expecting when they leave university and start as a graduate or a trainee in is a timesheet.
Yeah.
And particularly if you serve up something that's about 25 years old,
yeah.
They look at that and they go, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
And they do make judgments around software and the UX and how it's behaved because they're digitally aware.
Yeah.
So you do need to show up and have technology that basically sort of says about the firm, we're modern, we're up there, we're not asking you to use something that looks like it was built in the 1930s.
I mean, I think that flexibility is the big benefit for smaller businesses, and is the fact that you can react to situations a lot quicker. So you can see something and fix it, rather than if you're in a larger corporate, you can see the problem and after going through several committees in about 8 or 9 months' time, you can do it. And I think that's the thing small business will always get. So I guess what we're really saying here, the message for this bit is its resilience and adaptability is going to define longer-term success. And that's the thing a small business can actually give you that perhaps a larger one is going to struggle with.
Yeah. Well, I think back to Nikki's point about, the hybrid working. There's been a number of discussions post-pandemic that says, well, do we get everyone back in the office? We've written a thought leadership article on this around workplace theatre. People just being in the office because it's good to be seen to be in the office. Whereas if you can produce the data that shows that somebody in a hybrid environment or even in a remote environment is actually highly productive through accurate recording of activity and making its way through to charging clients or even just getting clearer on the cost of production, that's got to be a good thing to inform businesses to say we are flexible. And it's not an and/or conversation. There is room for something in the middle that if we measure things that matter, then we are going to be a more resilient organisation, and actually our team is going to be happier because you are going to give them that work-life balance.
I think as well. I think it's important from an employer's point of view is to make sure it's not as you're not trying to beat them up with the data either.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been a bit mystified why, because time management is such an important part of what we do, we don't pay enough attention to it, really. And I think what your product does is help that process. So I think once you start, you'd expect some of the data perhaps to be a bit, shocking to the individual because they may not actually be aware of some of their behaviour. So if it's me, I'd be saying, well, actually, I'm looking at this and saying this is useful. I need to know this. Yeah. It's not like we're saying we want people to be 100% productive because that's not realistic. So it's looking at making sure as a firm we've got decent productivity measures.
And
we understand client behaviour.
I think that's a big thing for me.
100%. I mean, I think there are in any business there are some clients that get a disproportionate amount of attention and are not necessarily charged what they should be paying. And as long as you can have that data and be able to see that, you can then take the next step, which is having an honest conversation with your client and resolving that. And if you can't resolve it, then obviously you can part company and let another client more deserving to fill that space.
So I mean,
sorry.
We do that. We're husband and wife. We can do that. That's fine. So the business has got momentum. It's doing really well. You've obviously got a great client bank. But was there something a particular moment in the development of the business where you were able to sit back and say it's a breakthrough moment? We've got the recognition, we've got an award or something along those lines. Have you had that sort of moment? Is that still to come?
Well, I remember the moment in Symphony was in 2018, after the third year of being nominated for Practice Management Software of the Year award. We won it. And that actually, I remember that feeling, which was that sense of validation from third parties that says, you're top of the pile. I might add, actually, that award has never been run since 2018. So
you're the holder still.
So we're still the current holder.
Exactly right. Milk it. 6 years on the trot. Excellent.
Actually, it wasn't 2018. What am I talking about? It's 2008.
Oh wow, even better.
So no, I don't. I guess those opportunities will come. Right at the moment, our focus is about furthering our traction within the market. But we have had some moments with some key firms who have stepped forward, quite big firms. That's been fantastic for us. One in Australia in particular, one in here in the UK comes to mind. And those moments are very gratifying because those businesses are very thorough in the way that they assess you, particularly in this world of cloud-based solutions and all of the security concerns that go with that, to go through the rigour of those assessments and to be selected at the end of it, I take those as some real highlights for me, and the beginning of another great relationship, which is what we're all about.
So how has success evolved from the early days? Now, success that was in 2008, is that still the gold moment, or are you now looking at it saying it's a different thing? Is it in terms of how the business has grown, or the team you've got on board now, or the clients that you're adapting, or?
I think I think the nice thing for both our businesses is our culture has stayed consistent from 1998 to today.
Wow.
And I'm really proud of that.
That's a big deal.
And we, as a result of that, we've got a great team. We attract great people. But the relationship with the clients that's a consistent for me, and I think so. No, I don't think there is a difference.
Yeah,
the product is different. I understand that, but the relationship is more so nowadays. I think is even more.
Is the vision different, Brian? Would you say?
Yes, I think the vision is different. Yes,
yeah.
You look at technology. And as I said before, we saw that practice management was going to change. It was going to get cannibalised in favour of elements of it being done by other providers. And we had a place to play in all of that with CloudCapcha, and that's what we went for. And we've essentially laid our stake in the ground for that. And I think that's definitely the way that's going to be. So the way the product is delivered has got to change because the legacy providers of the past can't keep pace with the technology change. They're not of a size like a Microsoft that can do this, and as a result of that, then they're not able to deliver things like innovation like responding to AI. They're just not going to get there, and they're going to have very, very deep pockets to do it. So you've got to pick your battle, and which one you're going to win. And CloudCapcha, I think we absolutely got that right. Not because it just worked for our clients, but it allowed us to broaden the scope into other areas of opportunity.
We've got really any
knowledge
record
worker.
time.
Yeah.
So
that then becomes a question of which one's next?
Yeah.
and making sure that we can achieve the same in that vertical as we have in accounting.
Brilliant. I mean, I think the importance coming through, just going back to what we were talking about, it's really important to celebrate these milestones, isn't it? Wherever they were. I think it defines you as a business, but also gives you an extra bit of fuel to keep the journey going, isn't it? It's a validation, and certainly we've seen it, from some of the awards that we've won, and it's not just about you as an individual; it's about what it brings to the team.
Yeah,
and I think that's what we've always said: is awards aren't about ourselves; it's about empowering the team. It's about making them proud. It's a validation within the team, and it's about attracting people in as well. Yeah. Because it's a PR. It's an important part of PR. That's brilliant. I mean, looking back on the journey from '98, so obviously been established for quite a while. Is there any advice you'd be sitting there and to your younger self saying, "Mate, I wouldn't really want to do that again"?
I don't know. I find that a really difficult question.
Every part's been brilliant.
I know. No.
But you learn from everything, don't you?
You can't. I guess for me, you can't go back, and I know that in my head. So I don't know what I would say.
True entrepreneur, you're always looking forward. It's brilliant. I love that.
No. Look, I think go back to the point I made earlier. Is that whole thing about focus? Just get focused on 3 or 4 things, not 14 things. And that's been a problem for me over the years. Yes, I would have liked to have nipped that in the bud, back up the track a long way, but hey.
But you wouldn't have got where you are today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a trait of an entrepreneur, isn't it? At the end of the day, you're always looking forward. You never look in the rear mirror.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what makes true entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. That's great. So what's next? What's the future? Well, CloudCapcha is obviously doing great things. Have you got other stuff? Have you got other stuff planning?
Well, look, there are some obvious knowledge worker verticals that we should look at, and that is something that we are turning our minds to. Which one's next? And it's a wide playing field. We were talking to a firm the other day who's in a managed service provider, IT, and they have their problem with time is as acute as it was for accountants. So it's about that's the next step, is working out where we go next, which one we choose. I'm not going to tell you which one it is next.
I knew he was going to ask you that.
But yes, we do have plans.
Brilliant,
I
excellent.
think we better go on to the quick-fire questions.
Quick fire, yes. So what we're going to do, we're just going to fire some quick questions at you.
Yep.
And see what the response is. So for me, is there a book or a podcast that's really shaped your journey?
I only came to podcasts recently, so I probably can't give that. But probably the one book, if there was other business owners, entrepreneurs listening to this, I think the one that really helped shape our business in more recent times is the book Get a Grip, and that's connected to the entrepreneur operating system method of how do you run a business. And I think that book has been quite instrumental in helping not just the leaders of our business, but also our team who've also read the book to work differently and to work more efficiently.
Okay.
So yes, for me, I'm afraid it would have to be a business book. Don't ask me about movies.
We wouldn't do that. What
The
about
Matrix.
best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I guess best piece of advice is I remember early days of Symphony or APS back in 1998. Brian and I were on a boat on the Hawkesbury River in Australia, just on the outskirts of Sydney, and we'd made a decision to leave quite a secure role, nice salary, fairly senior role in this business, and we decided to take the leap of faith and create APS. And I remember having a chat with Brian, and he said one day, it was pretty tough those early days. And we had no clients. I think we just had an office that had a phone and a filing cabinet in it. And he said to me, "Do you think we made the right decision?" and I said, "I'll get back to you on that." A couple of days later, we were having a beer, and I said, "Yeah, I think we have. And I said, I want to do this because I never want to look back and have that nagging question in my head, what if? Because I don't want to. I'd rather try this and fail than not do it. So I think for me is if you've got that, if it comes up, that itch, and you go, is that going to show up for me, that what if question? Then I'd say do it, follow your passion.
Brilliant. And just finally, one thing you tell someone who's thinking about setting up a business now, what should they focus on, do you think?
For me, I think the thing that I benefited from in the early days was a business partner that was also my mentor.
Right.
And then when I was on my own, I really came to realise how much I missed that. And fortunately, when Phil, our CEO, joined, I got a mentor back, and that made a difference. So if you're like me, don't underestimate the power of having that external person you can go to and have that conversation with, because it is a lonely journey. And I think that's worth its weight in gold.
We've found that as well, haven't we?
Yeah, indeed. I think that's a really important thing.
Brilliant.
Brian, thank you so much for giving up your time.
Pleasure.
And for coming and speaking to us today. Some amazing insights about obviously vision, about team engagement, celebrating success, and about that. I think that the ability to look forward, not dwell on the past, I think is such an important thing. So thanks so much for taking the time to see us. We really appreciated it. Wish you every success with CloudCapcha, certainly from what we're hearing.
And practice management.
And practice management is difficult. I think you've got a great client bank, great product, and I think it will, not just in accounting, but I think there's a much broader application obviously legal, but also in the creative industries as well, where it will really pay off dividends. So thank you, and congratulations on that project.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on this Lumina podcast, Behind the Business series, showcasing real journeys of entrepreneurs. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please feel free to press the subscribe at the bottom of the feed, and we look forward to seeing you at our next edition. Thank you.